and spending that time with us. Remember that if you wish to address the board, you need to fill out one of those little forms when you come in. Don't sit here for a half hour and then think you're going to fill out a form. We try to get those so that they're kind of spread out by topic, things like that. And one more thing I had to say is I'm really not trying out for like Godfather 6. I had eye surgery and the lights absolutely have to keep these covered up. So I'm not really trying to hide or anything. Okay, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Michelle, will you do the roll call?
Ms. Hamilton?
Present.
Mrs. Brown? Here. Ms. Acton?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Here.
Ms. Hunt?
Here.
And Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Here. There we go.
So move.
So move. Second. Okay, thank you very much. All in favor?
Discussion,
Pardon me?
discussion. I just have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
So I have a question about a couple items in the consent agenda. I don't know if I needed to pull them now or if we wait until later, but I have a question about the minutes and the MTSS that's on there. I forget what the number is. I don't have it in front of me. So do we need to pull that now or do we pull that later?
We'll pull them and put them into the discussion
Thank
item
you.
action. Okay?
Yep, the minutes and then the MTSS conversation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So other than the minutes and the other MTS thing? Okay, we'll pull them from consent. So otherwise, still approve, motion and second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion passes. Now we're on to the superintendent's report.
All right. Hey, welcome to the month of November. It's hard to believe. It's going to be Thanksgiving in a couple days, and I hope everybody is able to enjoy some time with family and whatever traditions you celebrate. Up first, though, we've got Mr. Baldwin, Middle School Athletic Director. He's going to share with us an update on our 7th grade football team. My understanding is they went undefeated, Mr. Baldwin. Is that fair enough? Make sure we... Yeah, absolutely, and then use the mic, please. Yeah, just gotta make sure it's turned on.
1, 2. Just wanted to, first of all, thank the board for this opportunity to share about the excitement going on at Parkside with our 7th grade football program. If I could, young men, if you could stand up and come join me briefly as they come up. This is just a small representation of the coaching staff and the young men. This is our future. These young men have stood the test of time. They played 6 games this year. They have been tested, and they have beat everybody by at least 30 points. So, we're excited about our future, and I don't want to be in front of you long, but I wanted you to know that I see state championship written right here. And we're going to say our motto, and then we're going to have our seat, because they adopted a motto, and it's going to carry them for the next 4 or 5 years. Say it nice and loud, guys. What is that motto? Hustle and heart sets us apart. Hustle and heart sets us apart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baldwin. Coaches, students, thanks for coming and sharing, and we're excited to see what you guys are going to do next year. Up next, Ms. Sandy Martin, principal of Northeast Elementary School, is going to share with us some of the great things happening out that way.
All right. Hey, good evening, everyone. This is my first time up here. I love this. I love that two of those kiddos are from Northeast. So, ooh, yes, love that. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to showcase some of the great things that we have going on at Northeast. So I appreciate the opportunity to share with you the positive developments in our school's disciplinary practices and social emotional learning initiatives. At Northeast, we firmly believe in the transformative power of building relationships and the profound benefits of teaching our students essential problem-solving skills. So 5 years ago, we made a strategic decision to incorporate the Caring Schools community curriculum into our daily routine. One notable aspect of our approach is the integration of morning circles into our school schedule. These circles serve as a daily check-in with our students, offering a platform to discuss any concerns within the classroom and to set expectations for the day. So at this time, I would like to introduce our new CI teacher, Mrs. Robin Sparkman, and she is going to, hello there, and she is going to do a demonstration of our morning circles. And so I'd like to say that with this, we've set out a time specifically every morning at Northeast so that every teacher has the opportunity to conduct these morning circles. And she brought some of our students in with her. Do you want the mic? Oh, here. Do I need to turn this one off? 1, 2.
So welcome, everyone. I want to let you know we have been really having a wonderful experience with our curriculum called Caring Communities. It is what we use for our morning circle. I do have 3rd to 5th graders. I have 12 students in my class. I've seen a tremendous amount of growth in my students when we talk about what can we do for another student when they're having a hard day, what can we do, something's happening at home. My students are really learning the resources for things they can do. So we have been practicing. I would like to apologize, but I have to be honest, I have bent over backwards, staying after school numerous nights, making phone calls to get our students here. We had more than this absolutely committed to coming tonight, and for whatever reason, they're not able to make it tonight, so we're going to go with what we have. So one of the things we've been working on is what do we do if a student comes in and they've had a really bad morning? So they might have missed the bus, they might have not had breakfast, somebody might have said something to them that they didn't like on the bus. And so we've been talking about what can we do to help them turn their day around. So I'm going to just start and we will run through what we normally do. So I start out with, good morning, everyone. I am so glad you are here today. So remember, we've been working on what we do when somebody is having a bad morning. Can anyone tell me what we use Mr. Mouse for?
When somebody talks and the other person has to be quiet.
Has to be quiet. Thank you. So this is our talking piece. So this is the only time you are allowed to speak in the circle is when you have Mr. Mouse. So this morning we are going to share with each other some ideas we have. So if you would turn to your partner, so you two are going to face each other, and we are going to quick do rock, paper, scissors and see who's going to go first. Let's try it again. Okay. All right. Ready? Go. So whoever won, you're going to share first. Okay. I'll just talk into this one so you can hear me. So I would say, is there anything that we can ask them, like, is there anything I can do for you? Or I'd probably just give them a little bit of space and give them a smile. All right, ding, ding, ding. All right, we're going to switch. Now your partner is going to share with you what they would do.
I would just try to be extra nice to them all morning.
Okay, good job. Is there anyone in our circle that would like to share what their partner said? Bryce, would you like to share? Okay, here, Bryce. Okay, what did your partner share?
My partner said she will give the person who's mad or sad a hug.
Thank you, Bryce. Okay, so Kayla, just remember, walk out, start back in. So we also like to do role playing because for some of our kids, I do teach a class of students with cognitive impairment, and so we do practice things over and over, and we do a lot of role playing. So we're going to have one of our students come stomping in here. So come on in. Oh no, it looks like one of our students is having a bad morning. So Bryce shared that one of the things we could do
Is give somebody a hug.
give somebody a hug. Would either of you like to share what your partner said? Kayla, would you like to share what Bryce said?
He said, will somebody be mad? He for a wee picture.
If he saw someone mad or upset, he would draw them a really pretty picture. So these are all things we practiced in our classroom. So once we are done with our circle, we typically, everyone pair shares, we pass this around, everyone gets a chance to share. And then we talked about like when Kayla came in stomping, after we went around the circle and we're practicing this, she has a big, huge grin on her face because we all know that a lot of us start out our mornings kind of rough and we've all learned skills to turn them around. And then when we are all done, I say, vamos, and we all go back to our seats. All right, thank you.
Give it up for our young actors here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in addition to our morning circles, we have implemented restorative circles as part of our proactive discipline program. Students have the option to request participation, or they may be referred to join a restorative circle. To provide you with a firsthand look at our program, we were going to show you a video, but we're having technical difficulty. But I would like to take this time right now to introduce you to Miss Lindsay Adams, affectionately known as Miss A by our students right here. Within 5 years of experience, she has 5 years of experience in conducting restorative circles. Miss A plays a pivotal role in our school community. She not only facilitates restorative circles, but will also deliver SEL lessons to each grade level and conduct daily check-ins and check-out sessions. So, Miss A, would you like to take the floor and explain your restorative circles? Here, I'll make room for you.
Good evening. I'd like to talk a little bit about our restorative circles. So restorative practices are used to hold students accountable for actions and behaviors, as well as focusing on restoring relationships broken by them. Restorative practices helps to build good relationships and a sense of community within the building. Restorative is not punitive, meaning it's not a punishment. It does, however, hold those students accountable for their actions and behaviors. We also focus on it's not the doer, but the behavior or action that they're doing. So meaning every day is a new day for that student, depending on what happened the day before. We're not punishing them from the actions from the day before. There are two sets of restorative questions that we have. I handed out cards. The first side is responding to challenging behavior, and the second side is help those that are harmed by a behavior action to them. So the first side is what happened, what were you thinking at the time, what have you thought about since, who's been affected by what you have done and in what way, and then what do you think needs to be done to make it right. So finding out a good consequence and how to give them a chance of restoring that behavior and restoring that relationship that was broken. The second side dealing with who was harmed by the other's actions. So what did you think when you realized what happened? What impact has this incident had on you and others? Who has been the hardest, or what has been the hardest thing for you? And what do you think needs to happen to make things right? So at the end of the day, when we're doing these circles, it is repairing it and figuring out what needs to do to make things right, to make it better so we can move on.
And so all of our staff members have this restorative cards in their IDs, so we can do restorative practices wherever we are on the spot. And also the signs of questions are visible in every classroom in our building. So at this time, we are open for any questions that anyone may have.
I have a question.
All right.
Is she new? Are you new?
No,
How long has she been here at
Almost-
Northeast? I just haven't
at
seen her.
Northeast, almost 10 years.
Oh, I haven't seen her anytime when I've come.
You
Okay.
haven't?
Yeah, but I'll see you next
Oh.
time.
You will.
Glad to have
Yes. She was probably doing a circle. Yes. So she's new to the position, but she's not new to Northeast. No, she's a staple there.
Thank you for
She's not
clarifying.
going anywhere. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, it is also November, and November for us is, we do a bond, or excuse me, there's a audit presentation by Plant Moran. So if I could invite Plant Moran to come up. We have a copy of the year-end audit at our desk. We will make certain that obviously this is online for folks, and then there's a presentation up above so everybody can watch it on the screen as we go through it. The floor is yours. If you grab the little person with the, that looks like it, there you go.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Matt Kelly. I'm a partner from Plant Moran, and we were out here doing the audit in August for a couple weeks and here to share the results. So we did spend some time with the Finance Committee at the end of October and really went in detail through all these reports. But overall, you had an unmodified or clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide, meaning all your books and records were materially correct. You will have a bunch of reports as part of your package. So you have a thick one or the financial statement one. So that's your basic financial statements. You have a smaller audited report, which is your single audit. And we tested child nutrition and the Education Stabilization Fund. And then you also have a letter to the board. I would recommend, if you're going to spend any time, read that letter to the board, read the informational sections in the back. There's a lot of new things about grants and funding and what that looks like in the future. So I think if you could spend time reading that, I think that would be helpful. So tonight we're going to walk through the graphs. So we're going to talk really about your general fund or your major operating fund. If you do have questions as we're going through, please let me know. But first I want to thank Marcus, Matt, Lori, and the rest of the team. They did a great job. Going through an audit is not easy. We ask a lot of questions. We dig into a lot of things, but they're very helpful through the whole process. Get through that. Okay, perfect. So the first slide is really a summary of what we just talked about. So we issued an unmodified or clean opinion to the audit financial statements. That is really our own responsibility. The financial statements are really management's responsibility, and we're responsible for rendering opinion. And the audit was completed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Thinking about the plan, scope, and timing of the audit, we did have a discussion with the board prior and sent out a letter. Significant accounting policies, those are described in note 2 of your financial statements. There was no transactions that occurred in a different period. And there was a new adoption of a new standard this year, but it did not have a significant effect on the district. Significant accounting estimates are the MIPSR's pension and OPEB liabilities, and the disclosures were neutral, consistent, and clear with accounting standards. We had no difficulties encountered during the audit. We had no disagreements with management. We had no audit adjustments this year. And we did have one internal control item that was discussed with the Finance Committee. Over on page 5, we had no significant findings or issues. We had management sign a representation letter, no consultations with other accountants, and then no fraud or illegal acts were identified. So now if we get into the numbers, so these are as of June 30, and once again, this is only the general fund. So taking a look at total assets, there were about 26.5 million, and the majority of this related to receivables, so federal receivables and state aid. The next largest amount was about 42%, which was cash and investments, and then you had some other assets. Looking at liabilities, The largest one, 73%, is really your accrued payroll liabilities. So those are all the teachers that really get paid through August, but they're accrued as of the end of June. Next slide talks about general fund revenue. So you'll see about 61% was state aid money. So anything that happens with the state, the foundation allowance, and your pupil count, that has a large effect on the district. And you can tell it kind of stayed the same over last year percentage-wise. The amount did go up a lot this year, and that was due to some one-time funding provided by the state that was really just a pass-through of expenses related to the pension and OPEB. The next largest would be your federal sources, so your Title I, Title II, your ESSER funding, so your education stabilization funds, followed by 14% related to local sources, which would be property taxes. Overall revenue was just under $80 million for the year. So if we dive into some of these non-reoccurring COVID funding, and we've talked about this in previous years, so you're awarded about $27 million in total for COVID and the ESSER funding. Total expended to date as of June 30 was about $26 million. So you have about $11 million to spend really through the end of September next year. I know the district has a plan for this, but I think it's one thing to keep in mind. You know, the last couple of years, you've had $37 million of extra funding to have. This will go away as of the end of next year. I don't think we're expecting any more. You know, the district made a lot of good choices with this funding, but now it's really thinking about what's going to happen now in the upcoming years and what does that look like? And without that funding that's been reoccurring, which is $11 million this year, do we have the right systems in place to move forward? Jeff, I don't know if you anything you wanted to add.
No,
Any
I
thoughts?
think Marcus is going to cover some of this
Okay.
in our amended budget next month, and obviously, you know, going forward. But we've done this knowingly. We kind of knew what we were up against with this funding coming in, and so as these ESSER funds no longer come in, obviously we'll have to make certain that our budget works with the, you know, we'll have to balance our budget without the use of that 11 million. Now, we've put a lot of money into fund balance, built up, you know, a rainy day fund, and we're going to need to, as a board, I'll make sure I'm very clear with this, the board's going to have some obligation in the coming years to control the spigot, so to speak. We know we'll spend some of that fund balance down, but how far down it goes in any given year is going to be a significant responsibility of the board to determine. And that's simply going to be a fact of life after ESSER, just like it was prior to ESSER. So that's just something that's coming up.
So now moving on to some of the expenses. So total expenses were about 73.8 million compared to 65 million last year. So looking at instruction, that makes up about 62% of it, and then support makes up 35%. So just kind of a reminder, these are state classifications. So the support services include guidance counselors, it includes pupil transportation, a lot of things that go directly to the students, but it's really just how the state classifies things. And another way to look at this would be by object code. So instead of instruction support, let's look at what are we spending that on. So salaries and wages and fringe benefits, supplies, and capital outlay. You'll notice that salaries and wages and benefits are like 71% compared to 72% last year. So that percentage stayed the same, but if you'll notice, the amounts actually increased a lot over the year. The reason the percentages are off is due to those ESSER funding and some of that non-reoccurring. That would show more in supplies and in total. So that's going to throw off the percentages, but the amount still increased over last year. So now we take a look at instructional expenditures as a percent of operating expenditures. So this is always a year in arrears because we compare these to other districts. And we get this information from an MDE bulletin. But if you look at a percentage instructional versus operating, it's about 62%. And the reason that percentage went down is kind of what we just talked about with the ESSER funding. So just depending on what buckets that fall in. Instruction went up over last year, but it's just due to the other expenditures also going up that percentage is a little skewed. We hop over to slide 12. So this is comparing it with other urban peer districts, again, for 2022. But you'll see that Jackson really is the highest amount, just under 62%. So if we look at the whole state, it's about 61%. So I would say you're right in line with all the state districts and above some of your peers. On slide 13, so this is really a comparison of the fund balance to the state average. So the state average through 2022 was about 21%. You were just over 17 at that year. And then in 23, you're about 23%, just over 23%. So we would expect, again, kind of states, districts throughout the states kind of peaking over the next couple of years with the COVID funding and that going away. So I would expect that to decrease. And like Jeff mentioned, just being smart about what are we spending things on going forward. We had a nice influx of money, and then are we going to make those decisions going forward? And all districts are going to have that discussion. And this is another way just to look at the fund balance. So yours is in the light blue, and then the dark blue would be the average peer districts. Over on slide 15, so this shows the net change in fund balance year over year. So we had an increase in the general fund, about 5.9 million in the current year, bringing that fund balance up to 17. So as I mentioned, you're about 23. If you get down to 12, 13, 14, that's when you might have to borrow from the state aid, just due to when you receive your state funding, which is near the end of October. So all those expenses from September 1st through October, you have to cover based on your fund balance. So it's important to have that up. And obviously, like with COVID, anything can happen. So it's good to prepare for that unknown and having that fund balance. And then the last slide talks about the 2018 Building and Site Fund. So we did do a final bond closeout as of 6/30. So we did the final testing. Overall current year revenue was just under 275,000, mostly due to interest on the funds that you had. Total expenditures were about 7.8 million, and total for the whole bond to date was 88.8. And the remaining fund balance as of 6/30 was about 4 million, which will be majority of spent over the current year. Rules around doing the final closeout, as long as you're substantially complete, which is about 90% or above, you can do that final closeout and then spend the rest of the funds. They'll still be tested each year to make sure it's in compliance. So that is all I had. Does anybody have any questions on that?
So you're going to see this item pop up later in the agenda. We have to adopt or approve this audit in the month of November. So I'm going to kick Plant Moran out of here if you guys don't have any questions for him. If you do have questions, I'd like to hit him up now, only because he's got a little bit of a drive yet tonight. And if I can get him off to his holiday, I will.
Or if you do have questions, besides, my information is on there, so you can always feel free to call or email. Well, thank you again for the time. And
I do have a question.
Oh, sorry.
And that's actually for Jeff, because I might forget when we get down to that part. And I've mentioned this to you before, so this won't be a surprise. When we talk about in the budget how the ESSER funds are going away, and how we're balancing and how we're what we're doing to make sure that we still are able to function well, do you mind making explicit these were ESSER funds and this is how we're kind of fixing it? Just when you have that conversation with us later on, because sometimes I forget, and it should be nice to know. Where they were and what we're covering it with now,
So again, we're going to be, in December, we'll be bringing an amended budget, and that will update the current year. And next month, I'll have Marcus specifically speak to ESSER funds, where they're going this year, and recognizing how much of that will not be here next year. So it'll give us a scope of what we're looking at. Is that fair? All right.
Thank you.
I like the clarity and an explanation and the colors.
Thanks. Yeah, and the team, like Marcus and Matt and the rest of the team, did a fantastic job helping us. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Dobies, I know you walked in. I want to make sure a couple of things. Ms. Hamilton, we're going to move the minutes, that item 23, 24, 31. That will be the last action item, or the second to last action item. And then the Power School Insights and MTSS, that was discussed last month. That will then be the new last action item. So when we,
Human resources, not minutes, right? Human resources.
you said minutes.
Oh, I totally was wrong. Human resources is what I was
Okay,
referring
so
to. But if
human
we can-
resources and
Thanks.
MTSS? All right, to be clear. Got it. Thank you very much. Glad we went over that. All right, now it's back to you.
Okay, consent agenda. Yeah. Anybody want to make a motion to accept? So moved. Second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Citizens requesting to address the board. We have, I believe, 4 tonight, and I'd like to put you in order so that we can just, you know when to come up and, I keep saying your name. Danita Bentley, Michael Young, Joni Orendello, and William Hastings. In that order, please.
Good evening. So you all know I usually come and just talk. Tonight I'm reading, so bear with me. Dear JPS School Board members, we extend our gratitude for your prompt response to our letter given to you at the October board meeting. Your willingness to meet with us to discuss our concerns regarding the partnership between the school board and educators in our district is greatly appreciated. Your engagement in this dialogue demonstrates your commitment to the well-being of our educational community. During our meeting, administration provided some insights and shared some data pertaining to our district, which we found to be a helpful start. The dedication to understanding the intricacies of our educational system is a positive step towards fostering a stronger partnership. Being able to share some of our daily experiences with you felt like a good start to building the kind of relationship we hope to foster with each of you. We were pleased that we were able to share with you some of the processes we are going through as a Northeast family to make things better for our students and staff. The fact that our processes brought out a couple of specific asks of central administration that we were able to share and have one immediately granted was very encouraging to us. A few of the specific outcomes that have come from the work that we have been doing as a Northeast family and that have come out since our October meeting with you all. Northeast staff, we have a para-training. With the collaboration of the teachers and support staff, specific training topics have been identified, and we are starting trainings this month. The leadership team is looking at streamlining systems for improving the organization and effectiveness of communication from the office to all of the staff. A new teacher academy, a multi-week training provided by the curriculum coaches for any new teachers in our building has been completed and continues. Fourth, continued work as a Northeast family to identify what we can do internally to improve, as well as identify what we need from central office to continue to improve. Things done by central office. The approval of an IST room to come to Northeast to help us with students who need a suspension, but an at-home suspension is not a productive consequence. 2, keeping the refocus room that we already have to help with day-to-day opportunities for students to reset and get back to the classroom where they can be successful. And 3, the approval to hire the social emotional interventionist at Northeast, which you met this evening. In light of our productive meeting, we kindly request that you continue to consider the actions outlined in our original letter. Regular school visits to all the schools in the district. Communication with teachers throughout the district. And continued comprehensive data analysis. We firmly believe that your ongoing participation in these endeavors will enable the school board to make informed decisions and policies that better serve our students and their families. Your active involvement is a cornerstone in building more responsive, effective educational system. Together, we can continue to cultivate a stronger educational community, united by the collaborative efforts of the school board, the educators, and the wider community. We look forward to furthering our partnership and working together to achieve educational excellence for all of JPS. Sincerely, the teachers and support staff of Northeast Elementary.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good evening. My name is Michael Young, and I'm looking at the DEI, and yes, I know we want the holidays, we want to get out, we have Thanksgiving, we have budget matters, we have all that stuff to do, but we kind of can't go to sleep on DEI work. It's important. And and we just created a position of a DEI officer. I believe that's the title. I think that's a very good move. But I'm wondering about accountability. Accountability is something that's important. And I'm wondering, where is accountability for the board and for the superintendent's office? I didn't say superintendent, superintendent's office. Where is accountability for the superintendent's office? Because it seems to me if the DEI officer and the DEI work, if the DEI officer is accountability partner for the board or the superintendent, that's going to be a very cantankerous relationship. And so in order for that to happen, the board needs to commit to themselves their accountability partners, and where are they going to hold themselves accountable, learn about their own racism, because we all walk in racism. We can't get away from it. We can't read a book. We can't read watch a movie about it. It's a lifelong journey. And I don't mean that from a book. I mean that from personal experience. It's a lifelong journey for me. It's something that I can't get away from. It's kind of like a snake that keeps biting me in the ankle. So that's what I'm wondering tonight. And this isn't a back and forth, but I'm wondering if on the DEI page or through the DEI officer, where is that accountability level for the superintendent and the board? The board could require, you can't require that before a school board member runs for election that they have to receive anti-racism training. But you can make sure that once they are on the board, that they are required at least once a year to have offered anti-racism training. That's actual accountability, and that's actual work towards diversity, equity, and inclusion from the school boards on down and the school superintendent on down to the schools. So that's what I was wondering is, where is that accountability level? And it was 2018 was the equity audit. That was 5 years ago. I don't know if that's been updated. I don't know if there was a plan to come back and audit again. I think that might be important to update to keep everybody on task and accountability to the diversity, equity, and inclusion that JPS says that they are a part of doing. I think this is one of the most important things that we can do in order to train students that it is a multicultural, multiracial, multi-gendered world that they're going to walk in, and we lie to them and do them a disservice if we don't train them on how to walk in that world. Thank you.
Hi, guys. I missed last meeting, and it's funny how many people noticed that I wasn't here and came up to me and asked where I was. And then when I'm out and people come up to me and say, hi, how are you? So when I started this work, my daughter, who's 19, she was in kindergarten. And I started it because she needed an advocate, and that's where my passion comes from. And it's led to so much more in my career, but I'm still a parent at heart. And it's kind of funny when I get notified that I was specifically not requested to do the work that I do, because I am not biased at all. I can be neutral. I can set aside my personal feelings about things. And it's interesting that me showing up at these hearings is making it people say we don't want her to be our independent facilitator. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because that was the first for me ever. And the 12 plus years that I've been doing this, that I got notified that someone specifically requested me not to be their independent facilitator, because I've never once had a bad review. And I've showed up at one other board meeting, so it's not just you guys. And I will be showing up at other board meetings because I believe in what I'm doing. On a good note, I was very happy when I walked in Northeast presentation about restorative practices and their circles. Sounds amazing. Sounds like it's being used for its intended purposes. I love that. Kids need that. I also would like to say that I'm very happy with JPS Montessori. I've loved that school since my kids have gone there. Mr. Campbell, he's an amazing principal. I absolutely love that man. Miss Tanya, the social worker, she's been great. And Mrs. Fairbanks recognized that my daughter, who's a kindergartner, needed help right away, and we just completed an assist meeting, and it went amazing, and I really appreciate them. And I like the work that's being done, but I just want to say I'm still waiting for the policies to be updated, to catch up to the work that's being done. Because when it comes down to it, if the policies aren't consistent, there's going to be inconsistencies. There was a COVID exposure in my daughter who has a heart conditions classroom and voluntary quarantines. I will always voluntarily quarantine my heart baby because she is not able to get vaccinated. If she gets COVID and it gets bad and she gets pneumonia, that's risking her life. Her doctor's policy is not to excuse voluntary quarantines. I'm sorry, I don't care about a doctor's policy. I don't care about a school's policy. I was lucky enough that when the principal emailed Mr. Beal, he excused it. But I can't have the principal email the superintendent every single time they excuse my daughter. So there needs to be flexibility for certain instances. I mean, things are serious. And that needs to be in the policy so the district-wide can know that things like this exist. Thank you.
Okay. So public comment is, we know, not a time for a back and forth or a Q&A with members of the board. I might just ask a few, if Mr. Beal, if you could just like give me like a head nod, yes or no on it, and a few very basic things. So, well, like, I'll just give you an example. Is it fair to say that the the new DI director reports to you as superintendent? Okay, so that settles that. Two issues, and these, of course, may have been already addressed by the board. I'm addressing these to the superintendent, may have been addressed by other board members. I'm concerned. I keep hearing reports about vandalism at Northeast School, out on the playing fields where people are going out. There are fields that are used there extensively by Jack's soccer. The people are going out and just ripping the hell out of them. I don't know, I've seen that posted on social media. I've seen that posted by, her name's escaping me, but the lady who does Jack's soccer. There's vandalism in the playing fields there. Okay, fair enough. Okay, that's completely fine. And then one thing I'm asking, not tonight, but since we're just around the corner from the superintendent evaluation, I'm sure event, which all of you are keenly looking forward to, I would be interested in hearing, whether publicly or privately, since one of the primary superintendent goals was improving attendance over the last year, to really do a detailed walkthrough of what that is, what your baseline is, what the process is, how that's coming along, and how that compares to the wider baseline, which is that stuff spiked way up during COVID and it's kind of coming down. And my final item, this is just sort of odds and sods. So over the last few years, and going back to the last school year, I've run into Miss Beth Laurie Smith, the outstanding history teacher, a number of times. And I think every time I talked to her and had a conversation, she was very excited about a new offering that she's going to be introducing called AP. This is a newer AP offering called AP Human Geography. And it's just beginning right now at JPS. Yesterday was the first day of the second semester, so my daughter brought this home. And it's kind of fascinating I didn't really get a good handle on what this was all about. And I'm just going to share some of these. I thought this was interesting. These are some of the questions from the prep guide. See how many of you know this? How many of you can answer this? The intensive agricultural practice of planting and harvesting the same crop more than once a year is called a swidden. B, double cropping. C, pastoralism. D, intertillage. E, shifting agriculture. I know I flipped the answer, but I'm going to keep going. Here's a good one. China and Vietnam's dispute over the Spratly Islands is A, a positional dispute, B, a territorial dispute, C, a resource dispute, D, a functional dispute, E, a religious dispute, and I'll just throw out one more. You're gonna love this. Which of the following statements best describes an application in the S-curve? A, graph of the Bantu migration. B, graph of the growth of human populations since their first population on Earth. I can't even run through all these. There's not enough time. C, the chart showing how cities associate with one another based on their population sizes. So I'm very glad to see Miss Lori Smith, who had championed this for a couple of years, has brought it to fruition. I wasn't sure. I was like, is this going to be kind of like a warm and fuzzy, kind of soft? And it looks like a tough, and I was reading online that it's actually one of the tougher courses for kids to pass. If I can not completely run out of time here. Okay, I had a quote. Can't find it, but the long story short is one of the tougher curriculum. So thank you for supporting AP curriculum, and thank you for honoring the students as you did, the AP kids here last month. That's a very important thing to do. And with that, I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, you too. Okay, now we have discussion items. Our first discussion item, 23-24-37 Neola. First reading, Mr. Beal.
Yep. So fall update is in. Most of this is legal updates, and I've been told we're going to get another special update to kind of keep us in line with some of the changing laws that we saw in this last legislative session. This is the first reading, and I apologize. Hang on. I want to thank Ms. Acton Dowell for participating. Welcome to the Policy Committee. It's nice to have you there. I guess what I would do just for today, since for whatever reason I'm not pulling them up, I would say if you have questions along the policies, Ms. Hamilton and Ms. Hunt and Ms. Acton Dowell sit on that committee. But I know Ms. Acton Dowell was specifically present at our last policy review, and I'd ask you to go ahead and feel free to either hit me up with those questions. You're going to see on the bottom of the policies the MCL number. Again, these are law-driven changes, so we're not, this isn't something that we have a whole lot of say in. If you see that MCL or in place of it, the US number at the bottom, that'll tell you very quickly that it's a law change. If you have questions along the way, what I'd ask you to do is just hit me up before next month, and I will try to make certain that we can answer those questions at our December meeting. Does anybody have any questions for me? And I apologize again, I can't open it today. I don't know why, but my link's not working. Mr. Dobie?
Madam Chair. Yeah, these policy changes are district-wide, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I believe there's been some confusion from some of the members of the public about like discrepancies between like school policies, but just to be clear, anything that we work on here is district-wide, so there shouldn't be any discrepancy school to school.
Nope. These policies apply to all buildings without a doubt. Ms. Hamilton?
So I know you can't pull it up, but I know you know these because you've already looked at them. We have one that says copy of online blended learning program. I was reading through and just wondered, what's the difference between what we're offering in this and what we offer at SCMV? Is there a difference?
Well, first of all, I don't see the policy, so hold still. Make certain that I. All right, it says, shall not be required in the course is being offered 15 days per school year. A student may enroll in more than 2 virtual courses in a specific academic term semester. That's for in-person learning. That's for Jackson High School or Jackson Public Schools here. But yes, our virtual school falls under it is it falls under an alternative school certificate. So we have to actually apply for that every year, and that's how that's how those students are able to participate virtually full-time. Did that answer your question? So yes, you can, SCMV is a full-time virtual program. This particular, where it talks about two classes at a time, is for in-person. So we do have students, and I should correct this or make sure everybody knows this, we do have hours in Jackson High where if a student wants to take a course online, they sign up and they take that course online here in Jackson High. Some of it is for credit recovery, some of it is for courses that we don't offer in person, but that course catalog is rather expansive. Did that help you out?
So just so for my clarity's sake, SCMV is different, so this is different. And this is for students that in-person students who are taking online classes, and they can take up to 2 or 3?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, I apologize, I just didn't have it in front of me. Thank you. Anyone else? And I will have, again, we can have a deeper dive on any of these along the way between now and next December, or next month, but certainly if you've got questions, I'll do my best.
Now move on to Sharp Park Painting Project. Marcus, will you present the information, please?
All right, good evening. So at our finance facility meeting last month, we discussed the painting of Sharp Park. So as we've talked about before, we cannot use bond dollars to just paint a building. That's considered just general maintenance and repairs. And if you remember, we went through and we're starting to paint this building. We started on the 3rd floor last summer. So we're also looking at doing Sharp Park as we come out of the construction there and painting all of the areas that the bond did not cover or could not cover. So we received a quote from Lenco, who is the painter doing the bond work at Sharp Park. And again, it'll be a similar process. We'll split that $36,000 will be split over this fiscal year and next fiscal year because the work will be done over summer between June and July where that year changes. So again, this is the first look, and we'll be coming back next month to ask for approval to begin that process, that project in the summer next year.
So I'm assuming you get other bids?
On this one, we did not, and it's just like when we did the high school painting, we also did not. We went for consistency again because Lenco is the painter on site doing that bond work as they were the painters selected for this building. They were vetted through the bond process when we went through the bond process for painters. So they have been vetted, just not this time around, if that helps. All right, so again, last year when we brought the high school painting project to the board, we discussed doing a floor a year. Last year we did the 3rd floor, which turned out amazing. So again, the same thing. These are the same quote amounts that Lenco provided us last year. Those prices are still the same and in effect. So we're bringing the quote back as we had the board only approve the 3rd floor last year. So same thing we discussed doing the 2nd floor this summer at our October finance and facility meeting. The $77,000 again would be split over the 2 fiscal years, so about $38,000 this year and $38,000 on next year's budget. And again, we will seek approval next month for this painting project as well.
How often do we have to paint? I'm just curious. It's like a ship.
That's an excellent question, and sometimes it depends on the painter that you use. In these areas like Sharp Park, if you've been through there, it hasn't been painted in a long time, obviously, and you can see the difference of floor up, how much brighter it is than the other floors, and it's just time as we've gone through and updated the buildings through the bond. It's needed to go through and kind of do some of that maintenance and giving it a fresh coat. We would expect this to last at least a decade. I mean, we'll have to go through and probably spot repair, paint some things just as normal maintenance, but doing a refresh for the building should last us a good amount of time.
So we were able to do painting in our buildings with the bond, which is how we've worked with several painters, but the one that we're currently working with, the preferred vendor that we've got now, Lenco, we've been exceptionally pleased with their work and the quality of what they've done. So in areas like where we're sitting right now, this was a designated remodel from before. And so this area, the paint that you see, was able to be purchased within the bond. Areas that are not part of that renovation, so common areas, hallways, for example, and in Sharp Park specifically, or we can talk to Jackson High, in Sharp Park, there's a new addition, a whole new wing and we put the paint in the classrooms. So all of our classrooms have got a measure of new paint in them. The conversation then becomes, what about those common areas? What about the hallways? What about, and that's the pieces. Because guess what you did? Well, we just put brand new paint, and then you walk down the hall, and before you transition from one stairway to the next, you've moved into old paint. And so that really precipitates some of this progress or processes. Let's make sure that when we do this, we don't want to turn out half a building that doesn't look like we're intentional about it. So that's the project that Marcus has been working on. And I think we've seen, again, I'm very thankful for the board's support, certainly upstairs. And when we bring it, again, you'll see it next month or here for second floor. And then next year, we're going to ask for first floor. And you can see that, our process is pretty, again, we're not trying to throw all of this in 1 year. We recognize that it's a lot of money because this is not bond dollars. These are general fund expenditures. So.
Marcus, you want to deal with the audit report?
All right, so as you heard from our audit firm, Plant Moran, this evening, they presented their findings from our most recent audit. Every year, we are required by law to have the independent audit of our financial statement. So that for June 30th, 2023 has been completed. And you heard from Mr. Kelly this evening presenting the results. There's a few reports, like you mentioned, the presentation he went over, along with our financial statements and the letter to the board for your review. So at this time, we would recommend the audit report be received as presented.
Motion to approve? And support. Marilyn and Derek. Okay, deliberation, any discussion about the audit report? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. 23, 24, 41. The solar farm. Marcus, once again, please.
All right, so, and we've talked about this a couple times. I believe we brought it to the board last month for discussion, and then we also brought it to the Finance Committee in October. Just a brief synopsis. Some of our buildings are on what's called electric choice, where we're allowed to purchase electricity at a reduced rate. The cooperative group is called MISC, the Michigan Schools Energy Cooperative. They've recently, I think we discussed this, there's an opportunity, there's a large solar farm being built specifically for the MISC group to benefit K through 12 schools at a fixed rate. I think it's 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour over a 15-year time period. We believe this is very beneficial for the district to participate in. As we know, energy costs are probably not going down, they're only going to go up. And looking forward to future needs of the district, and one of those being, how do we provide air conditioning to the rest of our district? And that's going to require a good amount of electricity and energy. So this opportunity came along at a good time, and there's a resolution in front of you tonight to agree for our MISC buildings to purchase their electricity for that fixed rate over the next 15 years.
Thank you. Motion to approve? So move. Lib?
Support.
Yolanda, support? Marilyn, okay. Yeah. Discussion, questions?
Yes.
Yes.
So are you saying that when we do this, that we're going to have air conditioning at some point? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's a project on the to-do list.
Stay tuned, but yes, it is in the plans for maybe a future bond.
Marcus, you said we are receiving a discounted rate for this. What is it currently? And with us committing to years or 100% of this, what would be the rate?
The fixed rate that we would be looking at going forward would be that 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour for the next 15 years every year. I'm not sure what our current rate is. I know it's higher than 7.5 cents. And remember that whatever that rate is, there's typically that increases year over year. So if it's 10 cents this year, it might be 10.5 cents next year, and so on and so forth. So this allows us to stay at that flat 7.5 cents every year for the next 15 years.
Excellent.
And
Okay.
just to clarify, Marcus, make sure that I can articulate this correctly. So we purchased, and we have since I've been here, our electricity for most of our buildings through MESIC already. The reason that we're bringing this before you is because MESIC is building a rather extensive solar farm in Genesee County. And they in order to build this, they got to sell it to investors, if you will. And we're an investor. We're saying, yes, we're going to commit to taking energy. And so 100% of the energy that we're going to take is going to come out of this solar farm. But that's how come we can receive these rates, is because we know they're growing, and this is how they're going to guarantee the return on investment to their investors as they build the solar farm. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a really, we're going to get our electricity through MESIC anyway. When we do it this way, we get a locked-in rate for 15 years. And as Marcus said, if we can hold one line steady where we know what our rate's going to be for the next 15 years, that right there is something unheard of in the ability to manage a budget, to say, I know what our fixed costs are going to be associated with a rate. That's phenomenal. So
Of anything.
I tip my hat to Marcus. I'll make sure that you please understand the work he's done with this.
And
It's
just to
significant.
give a little bit more background, last update that I received from MISIC, there was probably over 75 districts committed. And the interest is so great, they're already in works of planning a second solar farm in the future. So
that's
I don't know
wonderful.
what those rates will be, but
Good.
it's good to get in now when we can.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Now we are on 23, 30, 24, 42. 2024 Summer Property Tax Levy Resolution. Marcus.
All right, so every year we bring a summer tax resolution to the board, and what that says is that we're allowed to collect 100% of our taxes during the summer months. This makes things a lot smoother for budgeting, to limit borrowing, improve our cash flow position, so we're not waiting for January, February for tax money to roll in. We're receiving that over the summer months when we do not collect state aid, so it helps fill that stopgap in our cash flow and limit our borrowing needs for the district. So it'll help us save on interest costs that we don't have to pay in applying for state aid notes or doing other kind of financing.
Second? Motion to approve, Derek. And who was second? Libby was second. Any discussion on this? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are now on to board comments. Oh, sorry, forgot about that. 23, 24, 32. Human Resources. Would you like to speak to that?
I think first, just point of order, we probably need a motion and a second to get the discussion going. Is that a fair statement?
I'll make a motion to discuss human resources.
Libby seconded it. Okay.
So as a
Now-
reminder, Libby and myself specifically have continuously asked for exit interviews. We have not gotten those. And I know you can't talk about, actually, I don't know that you can or can't, but I wouldn't suggest that you talk about our resignations at this time. But I do want to understand why Ann Hesterman and Karen Mitchell have left. And again, I'm not asking for it at this table because that's, I imagine, somewhat personal, but I would like to understand why they left. I'm hoping that we had some type of exit interview, but I would like the details of that.
You mean personally, like not in this venue?
Repeat that.
You are correct. We don't discuss personnel issues specific at the table, but we do exit interviews on every person who leaves the district. Ann Histerman was a resignation, and if you want, next time you're in Reynolds Hall, I think Ms. Carter would be happy to walk you through Ann Histerman specific, and Karen Mitchell was retirement. That was a planned retirement from, I mean, we've known this since August.
So I don't want to have to come in for that. You can send that information to myself and Libby. Like I said, we've been asking for exit interview, aggregated data for a while. But I do have specific questions about them, so please just go ahead and send it to me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Does Jessica need a request for a specific, or just go, she can go ahead and send it? Okay. Okay,
Can
excellent.
that be provided to the entire board, please?
Pardon me?
Can the entire board have the information on the exit interviews?
Absolutely.
Usually just call and say, why did Joe Blow retire or resign or whatever? And if she's giving them something to write. Exactly. Well, absolutely. Okay, and the next one is what was. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Yes.
I think
Can you
you're
restate the
correct,
motion?
Derek. I think the first motion was to discuss. We probably need a motion to approve.
All right.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to receive the human resources report. I mean, we're not really approving, this is all administrative, your purview, so.
It's how it's done, so we would approve it part of the consent agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we need to just do a support also? Okay. Motion for support?
Support.
Support? And we have deliberated or asked our questions. Or Derek, do you have another one? No?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to. What is that other one?
We need
Oh,
23, 24,
MTSS.
36.
23, 24, 36, you say?
Yep, that's Power School Insights and MTSS. And I think Julie presented that last month.
Okay, I wasn't here, that's why I'm not getting that. All right. Okay, so we need a motion to approve? So moved? Okay, how about a second? Okay, yep. Discussion.
So the question on this one, last month, and so Jeff, you can answer this question, maybe now, I don't know. But last month, we had this on the discussion agenda, under the discussion items. And so I was expecting to see it under an action item today, but it was under the consent agenda. I wasn't sure why that was.
I think it was just because of the purchase. It wasn't really intentional to say one thing or another. I think it was already discussed at last month's meeting, so to move it along, that's all.
So just to help me understand, so I've always expected discussion items to come in as action items, and I just was, like, what's this doing up here? Is that something that we can expect going forward, that it'll always be an action item, or? Because I like sometime to be able to have discussion on an action item. I like to be able to have that discussion when we do an action item, because we're voting on it. So I just was wondering, I was confused why it became a consent agenda versus an action item when it was a discussion item last month. Just
So-
trying to understand that.
I was trying to understand what your concern is, that we moved it from an action item up to the consent agenda. And we moved it from discussion to consent simply because it was a purchase that was, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of
Discussion.
of objection to purchasing this. I didn't hear objection last month, so we put it in the consent agenda to move it along. That's all. It's not anything other than that. It's a program that we're going to use. It's a program we are using, and it's part of our grant funds, so it's not something that we're, again, this is, I hate to say it, it's kind of just more formality than not. So I apologize if putting it into the consent allowed us to move the meeting along on something that really should have, again, just been a done decision. So-
Consent.
So just so you know, for the future, when we have discussion items, I like to have it come back as an action item. Now, I don't know if there's a policy. That's what I didn't know. It's like, maybe there's a policy or something that I don't know of as to what allows that. I just don't know.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I believe per our policy, the chair creates the agenda with the help of the superintendent based on our feedback. This is your agenda to bring to us, but at the beginning of the meeting, the approval of the agenda is our opportunity to move stuff around. So if any two of us want to make a motion that's supported to move something around the agenda, we can do that, but
You're correct.
it's your
Yes,
direction to
absolutely.
be able to provide for a productive
Where it
business
goes for
meeting.
consent doesn't really matter. Yeah, I know. Okay, thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. Okay, now we're moving on to board comment.
Nope, we still
Oh,
got to
I'm
vote on it.
sorry.
Yep. And I
just
wasn't done with
want
my
Board
comments.
comments.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
wasn't done with my comments either. So just again, to reiterate, when we have a discussion item, I like to see it on the action item. I get that we can have it moved around, but just in general, I'd like to see it come back on the action items. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go through all those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, now we go on to board comments. Who'd like to start? Shalonda, go ahead.
MASB hosted their annual leadership conference last weekend. And I just wanted to bring back some of the information that I received while I was there. For those of you in the community that pay attention to our education bills through legislation, Senate Bill 395 is related to the teacher and administrators that are required to receive annual performance evaluations. Currently, there are 4 ratings: highly effective, effective, minimally effective, or ineffective. Effective July 2024. The ratings will be as follows: effective, developing, and needing support. So when we get to that point of evaluating our superintendent, we will now be, highly effective was taken away completely. And so we only have 3 ratings: effective, developing, and needing support. Another bill that captured my attention while we were there, it is Senate Bill 463. It was passed by way of a vote 20-18. And this is a bill that is requiring a student to complete FAFSA as a graduation requirement. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. This bill has been forwarded to our House Committee on Education because it creates unnecessary barriers to graduation. It requires the financial information for a student to come from their parent or legal guardian. So if FAFSA has to be completed, I don't know how many of you have actually gone through that document. It is not easy. It's not easy. So if this barrier is placed on our children, we will see a decrease in our students graduating. One other thing that we talked about while we were there, which was really interesting, we talked about proficiency. Proficiency is determined by each district. Proficiency is determined by each district. I think there's this misnomer, this myth that it's across the board or it's a standard proficiency definition, and it's not. And I just wanted to remind our community that when we talk about proficiency, we're talking about the work that our students are doing, how they're being assessed, and how they are retaining the information. So just wrap your minds around that. When we're looking at graduation and our students are receiving a diploma, if they are proficient, they should not be failing remedial classes or taking remedial classes at a community college level. So it's important that we continue to place a higher priority on the proficiency that our students are demonstrating through their assessments. Thank you.
I find that really interesting since when all these rankings come out in the paper, you have a percentage of who's proficient. So
Per
we can
district.
just decide what proficiency means by district?
Per district.
Ho, ho, okay. That explains a couple questions about some districts I questioned. Okay. Anybody want to speak next? Angela?
I just appreciated the presentations we saw tonight and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
So I did lunch duty at Northeast and loved it. And the children are so sweet and they're telling me all kinds of stuff. And then I was in the playground with one of the children that refused to go out, and his parapro thanked me for doing that. So I'm thrilled what's going on there and that there's all these supports in place. So amen.
That's really good to know. And it does make a difference. Kids seem to have more of an accountability to people they don't know. Or they don't go home with, not their mother or dad or whatever. Excellent. Okay. Derek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to thank everyone for continuing to do the work to really make everyone believe in the hype at JPS here. Welcome to the new hires included in this report, and thank you for the service for those that are leaving us, and hope everyone has a great holiday season.
Libs?
Attending the MASB conference I also went was exciting and informative. The classes and keynote speakers shared information that was beneficial to students, parents, and faculty. The primary focus was what can we do as a school board to better ensure that our students receive the best education possible through technology, blended classrooms, AI, or face-to-face instruction. Greg Baer and Ryan Rajewski started out the conference by speaking about their book modeled on Mr. Fred Rogers, the TV show. Mr. Rogers was successful because he focused on children's curiosity. In a research study done at Harvard, the question was asked, what did students do the most between the ages of 2 and 5? What they did the most was ask questions. Asking questions diminished as children grew older. A way to encourage asking questions was to have an Ask It basket, where students could put their questions on a slip of paper and the teacher could answer them. They suggested doing this at board meetings too, if board members were afraid to ask some questions. Some of the classes I went to were current trends in K-12 technology, data-informed decision-making, basic school finance, mental health in K-12 students, artificial intelligence in the classroom, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and overseeing the superintendent.
That sounds like it was really a broad range of topics. Yeah, more. Cool.
Current trends in K-12 technology, they talked about blended learning where students are learning part virtually and the rest is face-to-face learning. AI is artificial intelligence. Students put in a sentence, for example, for a writing assignment. AI will create a one-page paper for them in minutes. Questions to ask ourselves as a board is, do teachers now use AI in the classroom? Has it been successful? What are the problems and benefits? Do we have a policy on it? Basic school finance is another one that I attended, and we learned about different kinds of funds: debt service funds, capital projects, trust funds, proprietary funds, and fiduciary funds. We should have at least 10 to 18% of expenses in the fund balance or 5% of annual operating expenditures. The state will conduct a financial review if it falls below 5%. Then we're in trouble if that were to happen. The board's job is to review the budgets submitted by the superintendent, align finances to district goals, ask questions, and approve a balanced budget. Data-informed decision-making. Growth matters because it counts on the superintendent's evaluation. It is 40%. There are other categories, and 75% is adequate growth. Each school's website is a form of perpetual data. We should have mission, vision, set of beliefs, and statements. Are we preparing every student for what's next? Some examples of data are test scores, demographics, financial enrollment, graduation rates, and community services. Overseeing the superintendents was next. And a board and superintendent are involved in an institution that must be organized in such a way as to be able to get along under a leadership composed of average human beings. Conflict between school boards and superintendents has far-reaching implications, such as weakening of the district stability and moral increase and increases conflict over, I don't know what I did on this one. Increases conflict over instructional goals and objectives. High-functioning school board is one who functions well together, and they're the ones who work well with their superintendent. We learned about what qualities a superintendent should have, such as work consistently to build trust, must be involved with the school board staff and community, expectations of the board and superintendent must be explicit. They told us roles of superintendents and board and what they should be, and we should always be evaluating the superintendent on a 3-month basis and monitor for progress. And we talked about basic contract language. And that's what I learned.
Okay, I'll say it again. What a broad range of topics. That's amazing. Keisha?
So I'm going to start tonight by thanking our Northeast teachers and support staff and their admin as well for coming out and for the work that you all are doing there. You know, I had an opportunity to walk through Northeast and my bi-monthly visits that I do, and I got to see some real life, you know, actions and activities that were occurring that you all are dealing with, and also got to see how well you all handle the situation with the tools that you had already been given. I'm also super excited about the update that you all gave us. You know, one thing that I'm a firm believer of is that those that are closest to the problem, they are closest to the solution. And they're the best people to tell us how to reach those solutions. So when, you know, just hearing you all's report today on, you know, the different things that with central office to support, you know, and they're, you know, making way for, you know, you all to have like the teaching academy and the, you know, better communication, the peer training, like all the things that you all are doing. I'm really excited for them. So it was just really nice to hear how you all are leading the change, while also at the same time still being consistent and continuing to show up, showing your courage and your commitment to JPS, to our students, to yourselves, to our families. I do recognize that, you know, there's risks in showing up as you all do. So I continue to applaud our Northeast folks for speaking out about your needs. You know, what we recognize is that while you can do a lot of things, put things in place, and that's absolutely awesome, it's necessary, there are some things that we as a board and that central office as well can do to support you. And so thank you for continuing to show up. And thank you to central staff as well central office for what you've done to support them. Last month, Northeast did present a letter to the board that detailed some of their needs and the desires of how the board specifically could take action. Jeff scheduled a meeting within a week for us board members to hear. I assume that that's what the meeting was for, but for us board members to be able to hear more directly from the staff based on what he told me directly, and for us to be able to dialogue with you all. Unfortunately, during the meeting, we weren't able to hear much from you all. That was a little disappointing, you know, because it's a very early meeting for some of us who like to get their day started at 9 a.m. After working out and all the other stuff. But anyways, it was a very early meeting, which is okay. We'll do it again. I will do it again. Trust me, I will come out again. But I do wish that we could have actually had most of the meeting with you all engaging us and talking versus it being monopolized otherwise. We did have 3 teachers, though, resign from Northeast last month. 1 teacher this month resigned from Northeast. And this is why the things that you all have put in place, while they are admirable, they're necessary, I'm very proud of them. I recognize that there's more that we need to be doing. And so I'm committed to doing those things. We know that you got to get at least 4 votes for it, but just so you know, you have a couple of us on here who are definitely willing to do those things. But as you all continue to show up and talk to us, it helps us, all of us, better sense the need, better understand, and gives us, opportunity to know exactly what we need to do. One of the specifics that you all asked for and mentioned, you all mentioned 3 things, at least on that letter. I still have it, but keep it, so that I can make sure I'm paying attention to it. But it was one of the immediate doables that Northeast teachers and staff have suggested is that we visit the school. Sometimes, I don't know that everybody knows this. I know that they don't, because people think we actually get paid to sit up here. We do not. I actually have a job. I'm a mom to 6. So I always appreciate community support. And so I did have some folks in the community say, hey, look, we looked up this information and here it is. So I'm going to share that information. Our board policy PO 9150, is about school visitors. It's a board policy, a JPS board policy. I'm going to quote about what it says for board members. Individual board members who are interested in visiting schools or classrooms on an unofficial basis shall make the appropriate arrangements with the principal. Now, there's more to that policy, but the gist of it with regard to this doable that Northeast teachers and staff has asked regarding board members come and visit the school without central staff, and you all were very gracious and brave in telling us why you want us there by ourselves. We do have a policy that aligns with that. So expect to see me soon. I see we got some name tags. I don't know if you all knew that, we needed those. But if you did, that's great. That'd be great. Moving on. I have been fortunate and honored. This year I have traveled like crazy. I'm very grateful for it though. I've been fortunate and honored to be valued by these national school board networks and organizations over the course of this year, traveling out east, Midwest, and down south. What's been consistent in these progressive, student-focused leaders, believing that leaders should be held accountable in education equity inclined spaces is that much of what I ran on and have continued to champion and advocate for here at the board table is reflected in these spaces. So I've been affirmed. One of the things that I was very particular about is student voice being vital to the board's work. And a lot of the groups that I've been able, like I said, had opportunity to sit with and be with, they also agree with that. One of the suggestions that they have is that we need a student advisory committee that's directly related to the board, that advises the board. It's necessary for their input. I mentioned already, those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, and they have the answers. I had someone mention during a conversation I had so many, but they said, this place right here is like the students' jobs. We're spending 9 to 5 hours or 8 hours or so on our job, 9 to 5 or whatever it is we're doing. And we need our job, our workplace to be a place that we can come to and feel good about. The way they framed it, maybe just think of it differently, that wow, students are spending that much time here, and this is kind of like their job. So they're the best people to kind of help us understand what makes their job a place that they want to be coming to. Anyways, so again, having a student advisory to the board, directly with the board, with no, we don't want it filtered, is a necessary thing. Even parent voice, I've had that as well, where different schools that have been very successful because they've built these trusts with parents at the board table that are directly advising the board and almost sitting with the board at times as well. That's been a successful component of their board work, parent voice. So yeah, we need a parent advisory group to the board. We do have more parent liaisons in the district, and that's a good thing. They are employees of the district. And we know that sometimes when you're an employee, it's a little more difficult to speak up about things that you're seeing because you're trying to protect your job. So we do, while that's a good thing, I'm glad that we have it, we do need still a parent advisory. I ran also to continue to promote transparency, accountability, and accessibility. Those are my 3 things that I used to say. Transparency, accountability, and accessibility were very important to me. They still are. In my travels, I found that the most successful schools promote those same 3 things, particularly at the board table. And with board members in schools, there was a conversation that I had an opportunity to be in where board members, sometimes we talk about, we can't have a quorum in different places, right? And we know that when people sit right here, there's no back and forth dialogue. And oftentimes we want to be able to have that back and forth dialogue. There are ways we can have a community forum as a board where we sit in a room together and have back and forth dialogue where we're not making any decisions for the board, but we are having that back and forth dialogue, which I think will really go a long way towards, and I've talked about this before, a long way toward building a trust within the community. These are just some of the updates of some of the things that I have been able to experience in my travels. A little bit more. I'm almost done, folks. One edit, before I forget. Teacher evals have changed. Superintendent evals have not changed, but teacher evals have changed. But back to my notes. In my travels, I've also been affirmed, interestingly enough, that the state agrees with me that we do need to be doing equity work. It was real nice to be able to hear somebody else continue to talk about it. We need to, I mentioned before, to have a plaque here or a card that we ask ourselves these questions before we're making decisions, so that we can make decisions that are equity focused. While audit reports, students singing and performing, and the awards, all these things are absolutely great. We need those. Facility management, all these things are great. They should not be the only consistent thing that we are seeing at the board table. We know that the superintendent and the board chair, president, they make these agendas for us. And so they're the people who are deciding what we're seeing. We never see anything about discipline, all the things that are really mattering. Our schools we're titled something, but we're also on the state's list right now. We've got school buildings that are on the state's list. We didn't get on the state's list because we had beautiful buildings. That's not what puts us on the state. It's these real concerns, these real data-driven concerns, around proficiency, around, discipline, that are driving us towards these state lists that you don't want to be on a state list. That's not a good thing, folks. But if we were to be able to hear more of that at the board table, then we probably could address those things. We're not hearing those things. So I'm hoping that, we won't just talk about the turf on the football field, but we'll start talking about issues that actually impact the students' education. Lastly, I did attend the MASB conference this year. I was fortunate to connect with some other bold and courageous school board members from across the state. They had a Saturday morning session with Rodney Page that was absolutely amazing, and Libby and I agree that he should be brought here for something. Thank you.
Now, I haven't said anything yet, except that I did have my eyes operated on. I'm only trying to be incognito. But I have been extremely impressed with the schools that have come in with their little people and showed us what they're doing, and that the kids know what they're doing. They don't have to have a lot of prompting. They know how to do it, know what they're doing. I just think those little baby steps that they're taking are so important to making a major change. And they're bringing the board along, and they're bringing their teachers along, and they're bringing their parents along, and I really enjoy that. Okay, calendar. We have November 28th. It's a board work session for superintendent evaluation at 5:30 at the ISD. Then December 19th, our regular board meeting is at 5:30 back here. Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Jump in here.
I have one question.
What's on?
Yes.
How come we always have it at the ISD instead of here at Jackson High? Is there a reason?
It's kind of like when you go on a retreat. You don't just go like to the Holiday Inn. You might go to Lansing and go to something else, just to get you kind of out of your normal thought, and hopefully you have different conversations with one another. I asked that a long time ago when I was in the union. I said, why do we always have, go here? And I believe that it does, that when you're away from home, so to speak, you tend to look at things a little differently. Sometimes you're a little more open you'll be if you're in this situation, but they've got a good facility, and that's what we pay them for. Our money goes to them already, so. Okay.
Move to adjourn.
That's it. We're discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Chris, you may now rise.